Hey everyone, my name's Brittany Black, and today I am hosting the first episode of Modern Day Warrior. We have a special guest with us today. His name is Paul Black. He's been on Shooter, SWAT, Obi-Wan Kenobi, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and so much more. This guy is so talented and so gifted, and today he's going to share his story, tell us more about the new and highly anticipated sports documentary film that's coming out soon called Modern Day Warrior. So Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Brittany. Just so you guys know, Brittany's also a producer on the film as well as a producer on this podcast. It's inspiration, it's MMA, it's sports. It's very exciting. So thanks for having me, Brittany, and thank you for all the work putting this together.
So Paul, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey into this world of entertainment.
Yeah, so when I was, how far back should I go?
How about as far back as you feel?
Okay. Well, when I was 13 years old, I knew I wanted to become an actor, and that was before I knew I wanted to become a producer, which was later. And comedy got me inspired. It was watching comedies, sitcoms, and I always thought like Ace Ventura, stuff like that, Jim Carrey. I always thought like, how do people do this? Is this something that they're paying to do? Are they getting paid to do it? Like, is this a job? I didn't even know. I just remember when I was young, I was like, I want to do that one day, and I pinned it in my brain.
Was there like a comedy star that inspired your journey?
Actually, Ashton Kutcher was one of my inspirations. That 70s show was one of my favorite shows. I think when I was in high school, and his role as Kelso, I just could relate with for so many different reasons, and I thought it was so funny. And,
definitely one of my favorite shows too.
And he's also too, it's Ashton Kutcher is like, he's good at what he does, but I'm also like, I feel like if he could do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? Relatable kind of guy. But many others, like I said, Jim Carrey is one of my inspirations. Ryan Reynolds actually grew up in Vancouver, where I went to school, Vancouver Film School, and studied film and acting, which is really cool. And him and Van Wilder and all sorts of films growing up, I thought was pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's great. So tell me a little bit more. So you got in the acting scene, and then what?
Yeah, so I ended up studying at Vancouver Film School. Shout out to my brother Josiah Black. He went there first, and he encouraged me that if anybody could do this industry, I could. And I jumped into that when I was 18 years old, right out of high school, full-time acting course, studying film, TV acting, and filmmaking, which was an incredible journey. I lived in a small apartment the size of like a closet.
Oh, wow.
Had a bunk bed with a friend, and Jason Molnar is his name, and my brother Josiah was living with us at the time. So three of us, actors, filmmakers, going to the same school, Vancouver Film School, shout out VFS. Bill Marchant was the president at the time, really good actor. And, it was, that was the start of my journey. And, I ended up becoming one of the top of my class for what we were studying. And I ended up moving to Los Angeles. I could have gone on to another year course, but I decided to go to Los Angeles and take a swing at professional work, which was its own journey in itself. My brother Josiah and I, we packed up, took his car, Toyota Celica, 1992, tiny little Celica car, and we lived out of that in Venice Beach, and it was Malibu and Venice Beach were our spots to sleep and surf for probably about 6 weeks, and then we eventually got a small apartment, and I got an agent, and it wasn't all smooth sailing. It was a lot of waiting and hey, agent, I'm here, because I had an agent that wanted to work with me when I came out, that had scouted me on a stage in Seattle when I was performing during school. And I remember I got to the payphone, I called him, and I was like, hey, this was 2011, I was like, Craig was his name, Craig Holzberg at Avalon Artists, really good agency. And I was like, I'm here, ta-da, like, he's like, great, I'll see you, so set up a meeting in 3 weeks with my assistant. I'm like, okay, is this guy just trying to see if I'm for real? Like, I'm just riding this out, or is he just, I'm in town and leaving? But it was a great start. He showed me the right classes to get into for people that were working actors in town, and really pointed me in the right direction. And I basically feel like that my humble beginnings really are part of the roots of who I am today. So.
Okay, so now you got into acting, and I take it you have to audition and you have to like memorize lines and then you book the job. Is it pretty simple or is it pretty hard?
Yeah, I mean, being a trained actor at the time, I would say it was not hard by any means because I was trained to put up scenes, do text analysis, dive into working with other actors you didn't know. And but the hard part is just the rejection. You know, it's like you can audition for 20 things and maybe you get one thing out of it, especially when you're starting out, you don't have any credits. But perseverance is everything, not giving up and just realizing that, you know, there's something that God has given me inside here that I feel like is in the future, and I'm gonna keep going for that until I achieve it. And I always felt like that God kind of had instilled that in me, and so I kind of had a confidence that was, you know, maybe not of this world, you know, as they say, because I truly believe that God gave me that confidence to not give up and just realize that He'd placed me on this journey for a reason.
So I do have to ask, you've obviously worked with celebrities.
Yeah.
Now, was it nerve-wracking? Was it easy? Was it like, no big deal? And who was the most memorable celebrity that you worked with?
Gosh, you know what? People ask me this a lot, and it changes sometimes on, you know, who I say. Like I've got to work with Johnny Depp or Dwayne Johnson. You know, I actually did meet Ashton Kutcher, which is really cool, on the Warner Brothers lot in 2013. I thought that was really cool, but crazy, fascinating enough, it was, I worked with Danny DeVito actually, and I got to meet him and chat with him. And for some reason, I thought that was one of the coolest experiences because here, this guy, I watched him be the Penguin in the Batman movies, and he crushed it. And you know, he was in Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's literally just such an amazing actor, like such a well-rounded actor. And he's a small guy, as you know, but he was the most down-to-earth, humble human being. I was like, wow, this guy's literally out of a movie. I've watched him my whole life, and he's coming up to me, making sure I'm getting home safely, and you know, checking in on me when I'm on set, and just one of the most friendly people ever. So I had to say, Danny DeVito, big shout out. Love you, man. Hope to work with you again.
I will say, I was a big fan of Matilda. I don't know if you've seen that movie, and Danny DeVito's in that, and
really?
it was so good. And that was where I remember him from, and I was like, he is hilarious. And I think, you know, in the movie he portrays more of a meaner character than just, you know, this nice, humble person like you're explaining. So it's just kind of interesting to see him play this on the big screen, and then you're telling me he's just this great guy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how a character can make someone look so mean and someone you wouldn't want to meet in person, but then like you meet them, you know, on the other side of things, and you're like, wow, this person's actually like really nice, you know, like not a big deal. So I think that's really cool. I would even myself love to meet him one day. So
yeah, I haven't seen the film, but I'm not surprised that he's able to portray, you know, someone that is completely opposite of himself, because again, such an incredible actor. Everything that I've seen him in, he's freaking gold, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that definitely Danny DeVito.
So okay, so you've done some cool acting roles, you've met some cool celebrities. Now you cross paths with producing and directing. Now, how did that encounter happen?
Yeah, well, I'm 32 years old now. I was about 20 years old, maybe 21, that I just had a little bit of a bug for, hey, one day I want to produce. I want to put together, it was more of just being, wanting to be a catalyst of putting a team together to create art in a way that is the way I wanted to create it, if that makes sense. And it was when I was about 29 years old that I started producing some commercials, did a Lamborghini commercial. You were in that as well with me. We got to work with, Tourism LA and go around some of the coolest spots in LA, like the Observatory and the Hollywood sign and Beverly Hills and a Lamborghini. And I got to co-direct that with my brother Jeremiah, which was a lot of fun. And we did a few other, we did like a White Claw commercial, and we did like a tourism.
We did one for, I think it was like Thanos, or not Thanos.
Thanos. Yeah, we did one for Thanos.
I don't know what it is, but
we went into the Marvel universe.
No, but Tholos and Thanos, for some reason, I just keep wanting to say that, so that's my fault. But Tholos Resort in Greece, we filmed one too, and that was beautiful, amazing. If you've never been to Greece, like, I highly recommend it. The waters are just crystal blue, clear. The weather was amazing. just the culture, the food. It was all amazing. So I highly recommend it. But yeah, we also did one of those too.
Yeah, we did one for Tholos Resort, Santorini, Greece. Big shout out, amazing resort. But to back up a little bit, my brother Jeremiah went to school for cinematography, directing, and lighting, and he went on to stay working in Vancouver for years, working on top shows like The Flash, many CW shows, Bates Motel, Lucifer, Prison Break, many other projects that he's crushed it on. And he has a really good technical background with, like I said, cinematography. So he did a lot of the heavy lifting with some of the cinematography and lighting, and I was able to co-direct some of these projects with him, and some of them starring yourself as well. And we'll have to talk about you too for a little bit here, because you have a background in modeling and acting and working with many other incredible people and celebrities and stuff like that. But big shout out to Jeremiah Black, my brother. He's incredible, very talented, and he's a co-director on Modern Day Warrior with me. So fast forward a little bit, Jesse Arnett, he's a fighter, professional MMA fighter from Canada. I grew up with him, and he came out here to visit me. And when he came out here to visit me, he shared some of his full story with me. And I just remember being like, I want to tell your story. And this is going to be the first documentary I'm going to do. And he had a title fight coming up in Dubai. And I said, hey, what if we had a documentary team come out and follow you on your journey and told your story? And he was stoked on the idea.
Well, I remember also when he had came to visit, and I think that was the first time I formally met him. We actually were at Bible study. Mm-hmm. And that's where he was able to share his story. And I remember people were in tears hearing the story, and I felt like that's when you had mentioned to me this guy has a story. This is something that everybody should see on their TV, make it a film, because it's so inspirational what he had to share. So isn't that kind of what sparked this whole thing?
Yeah, that was part of it, was him sharing his story, like I said. And I invited him out to a Bible study with some friends, and I got together to study the Word of God and pray together. And I was so inspired by his story. And I don't know how much he shared it in public. He was a little bit nervous, I remember, and now he's shared it a bunch of times, because I've been with him on podcasts and shows and stuff like that where he's sharing his story. But big shout out to Jesse Arnett, love him like a brother. And it was, so I asked Jeremiah if he'd want to direct this thing with me, and he said yes, and you'd help me produce it, and you said yes. And we went out there to Dubai, and that's how the journey started. It was a crazy, huge event, lights in the sky, Produce Fight Championship right there on the beach, under the Burj Al Arab, in Dubai. And it was lights in the sky, famous singers between the fights, and it was a spectacle. I'd never seen anything like that. And Jesse was the main event, and I was like, wow. I'd watched him on TV most of my adult life, because I'd always followed his career fighting, and even though I lived in LA, and I just it was so cool to be there in person. And as much as I'd watched UFC and MMA on TV, the first time actually seeing it in person live was a whole nother experience. And I don't think it's meant for everybody, but it was fascinating and cool and gritty and a little bit packed a punch. If you watch the film, I don't want to ruin it, you'll see what happened in that fight. But that was the start of the journey of directing feature films, and I'm very excited for this one.
I will say, I was never really into watching the MMA scene. It was not really something that came of interest until learning about Jesse and his story, and then seeing it for the first time, and just the intensity behind it, and meeting other fighters along the way. I mean, so many fighters have such inspirational stories that just don't get told, that I think the public should know about, and just understand how, it's they go through so many different trials and so many different challenges, and they just keep rising up, and they don't give up. They're so passionate about the fighting and winning, but most of all, providing for their families, at least for some. And I got to hear some really, really amazing stories from different fighters, but it's just from what I've seen and what I know, this is really an exciting documentary, just to inspire not only the younger generation, but even all generations, for the sake of just never giving up on those challenges in life. Whatever challenges or trials that hit you, just get back up, keep fighting every single day, because everybody has a purpose on this earth, and we just got to keep fighting and keep battling, and getting through what we can, the best that we can. So yeah, I'm really excited to see this come out.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and just to reiterate what you're saying, every fighter has a story, and a lot of them are very inspirational. They're not easy. If you get to know some of these guys, their personal stories, it's tough stuff. But it's not just MMA. It can be other sports or other professions, or just the everyday person that has gone through some hard stuff and endured and turned their story from basically being a victim into a victor. And I love that about modern day warrior. It's the essence and frequency of, yes, mixed martial arts and sports and inspiration, but it's really that never give up, you know, personality trait that everybody I think has, that they need to learn to tap into. And I'm excited to share this film with the world.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. But I do have to ask this because it did cross my mind. When I remember, like, you see these fighters in the cage and you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to ever have a run with one of these guys. So they're absolutely super intimidating, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, they got the cauliflower ear.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they got scars, and
they
broad shoulders. A lot of these guys, and they're hard dudes. They knock people out for a living. They put people to sleep. They're trained killers.
Without question. And I remember when I was meeting these guys, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like if they just like shake my hand, I'm gonna break an arm, because they just look so strong and they look so intimidating. Where I'm just like, oh my gosh, but they seem to be. At least the ones I've met seem to be the most genuine, honest, amazing people. So it's kind of like interesting where you see them in the ring and you're like, I wouldn't want to mess with those people. They look angry, but it's like, it's not an anger thing. It's just, they're just doing the sport. They're just fighting, they're fighting to win.
Yep.
And it's really cool to meet these people beyond the ring, not inside, obviously. Getting to know them, because they actually are just like amazing, genuine people, and it's nice to see this like softer side of them that you probably obviously won't see in the ring. I mean, would you agree, or what was your first impressions like meeting these fighters who are so intimidating?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jesse Arnett, first of all, he's obviously a trained fighter, amazing. He one of the incredible fight career. But he's humble, good guy, soft-spoken when you get to know him. But I just noticed that a lot of these guys, they can have a harder shell, I think partly through some of the stuff they've been through in their lives. And as you get to know them, you kind of just see the layers of the onion peel back, and that most of them are good human beings. And I haven't met all fighters, of course, but I've probably worked with about 20 to 25 professional fighters on this project. And that's some of the most disciplined, integral people that I've ever met.
And I can't wait to see the final finished film. Is there anything else you can at least let the audience know, like what to look forward to? And
just say thanks to everybody that supported us on this journey so far with this project. We're excited for this podcast, and we're excited to have many fighters on this podcast, and other actors, filmmakers, and inspirational stories from people from the military as well. And keep a lookout for Modern Day Warrior coming soon. We'll keep you updated where it's going to be. And thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. You heard it first. Modern Day Warrior coming out soon. Make sure you set your DVRs when it comes to DVR.
Cool.
Thank you guys for tuning in to this Modern Day Warrior podcast, and stay tuned for episode 2.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.